If you're alone right now, you might want to make sure your door is locked, because once this story begins, the shadows in your room may feel strangely alive. Tonight, I want to tell you a story whispered only in uneasy breaths, a story shared by people who still swear they hear echoes of it drifting through the trees whenever the wind grows too still. It happened during a quiet camping trip, the kind people take when they want to disappear from noise and reconnect with something simple, something peaceful. But sometimes, when you step too far away from the world, something else steps closer. And before I tell you what happened, I should warn you, the person who lived through this night never camped again. Not after what they saw, not after what they heard, not after what followed them back. Now, let me tell you exactly what happened that night. They arrived just as the last orange lines of daylight were slipping behind the treetops. The forest felt unusually quiet. No insects humming, no branches rustling, nothing. It was the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums, as though the world is holding its breath. They set up their tent near a thin clearing, where the trees formed a crooked circle, almost unnaturally perfect. The air smelled damp, metallic, like rain, even though the sky was clear. That night, after the fire settled into glowing coals, they heard it, a tap, just one, light. Behind them, they turned. Nothing. Tap. Again. On the opposite side of the clearing. At first they thought it was a branch falling, maybe an animal, until the taps began following a pattern. Slow, patient, deliberate. Tap. Pause. Tap. Tap. Pause. Tap. They tried to laugh it off, but every sound seemed too sharp, too intentional. Eventually, they crawled into their tent, zipped it shut, and wrapped themselves in their sleeping bag like a shield. Hours passed. Then, a soft, dragging sound circled the tent, like fingertips gliding across the fabric. They froze, not breathing, not blinking, every muscle locked tight. The dragging continued, slow, steady, tracing the entire outline of the tent. Whatever it was crawling around them. Then came the whisper, a low, breathy murmur, right at their ear, from the other side of the thin fabric. You finally came back. Their hearts slammed in their chest. They hadn't moved, hadn't said a word, yet the whisper sounded disappointed, almost longing. Then something pressed against the tent wall, a shape, tall, thin, leaning in so close they could see the silhouette of a long hand dragging downward. The whisper came again, but this time, closer. I never stopped waiting. They ripped open the tent zipper and bolted into the darkness. Their flashlight flicked on and caught something at the edge of the clearing. Something impossibly tall, its limbs too long, its body shifting like smoke trying to hold a shape. It didn't run, it just tilted its head, and then it smiled. Not a friendly smile, a stretched, unnatural one that split too wide across a faceless blur. They sprinted through the trees, branches slapping their arms, their lungs burning. Behind them, they heard that same dragging sound, but now it was fast, chase fast, hungry fast. When they finally reached their car, they dove inside, locked the doors, turned the key, and floored the gas. Gravel screamed under the tires as they tore down the long dirt path. In the rearview mirror, for a moment, they saw it again, standing in the middle of the road, watching, perfectly still, its head tilting, slowly, as if memorizing them. When they looked back a second time, it was gone, but the whisper wasn't. Sitting alone in the car, breath shaking, they heard it again, not from the forest, but from the back seat. Next time, don't run. They didn't look. They couldn't. They drove until sunrise burned away the last traces of night. When they finally found the courage to check the back seat hours later, nothing was there. No footprints, no marks, just a faint smell of damp earth and a perfectly shaped handprint on the inside of the rear window. A handprint too long, too thin, and far too high for any human to reach. And that is the night they will never forget. Some people say the woods hold memories we're not meant to wake. Others say Certain things wait for the right person to return, even if that person never knew they'd been chosen. But one thing is certain, they never went camping again. They never drove down another dirt path. And sometimes, when their house creaks at night, they swear they hear that same soft tapping. Slow, patient, deliberate. Tap, pause, tap, tap, pause, tap. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just the house settling. Or maybe something finally caught up. If you hear it too, don't look toward the window. Don't listen for the whisper. Just do exactly what they didn't. Do not answer when it says, "You finally came back."
Most schools go camping to build teamwork, but this trip became something the students of Ridgeway Middle School would never forget. There were 3 friends: Emma, quiet and observant; Jordan, the class clown who acted brave even when he wasn't; and Lily, the girl who believed in ghost stories a little too much. The teachers led everyone into a dense forest where the trees were tall enough to swallow the sky. Even before they unpacked, Emma felt something wrong. The air was too still. No birds, no bugs, nothing. Their campsite sat near a shallow lake, black and glossy like a piece of broken glass. A crooked wooden dock stretched into the water, so old it looked like a single step would break it in half. The school warned everyone not to go near it. Naturally, Jordan wanted to go near it. But that night, after tents were zipped and the fire faded to red coals, the students noticed something unsettling. Someone, or something, kept walking around their tents. At first, Emma thought it was a teacher, but the footsteps were too soft, almost like barefoot steps brushing gently over pine needles. Soft, slow, circling every tent in perfect arcs. Lily whispered, "Doesn't it sound like someone pacing?" No one slept. Around midnight, a cold wind rushed across the campsite, so sudden and sharp that it shook the tents. Then, from across the lake, they heard it. A humming, a low, wavering tune, almost a lullaby drifting across the water. It sounded distant, yet painfully clear, as though someone was humming just behind them. Jordan tried to joke that maybe a teacher was singing, but the tremble in his voice ruined the joke. The next day, the teachers led everyone on a nature hike. They passed old carvings on the trees, deep, crooked symbols none of them recognized. Some looked like eyes. Some looked like open mouths. Some looked like they were screaming. When Jordan touched one, Emma saw the carved eye shift, just slightly, as though something inside the bark blinked. No one believed her. That evening, before lights out, the students roasted marshmallows. Everything almost felt normal. Kids laughing, teachers relaxing, the sun dipping behind the treetops. Then Lily pointed toward the lake. Someone was standing at the very end of the forbidden dock, a tall figure, unmoving, staring directly at the campsite. The teachers saw nothing. The students saw everything. And when the sun finally disappeared, the figure melted into the darkness like it had never been there. Night fell. The humming returned, louder, closer. Jordan, unable to take it anymore, whispered that they should find out what it was. Emma tried to talk him out of it, but Lily agreed. They had to know. They had to see. So the 3 of them slipped out of their tent, flashlights shaking in their hands, and crept toward the lake. That's when they heard the footsteps again. But this time, the footsteps were not circling the tents. They were following them. Every time they moved forward, the footsteps crept behind them, soft, dragging, like someone walking with wet feet. By the time they reached the lake's edge, the humming stopped. The water was absolutely still, too still. Emma felt her heart beating against her ribs as she stepped onto the first plank of the broken dock. The wood creaked. The lake rippled. Jordan whispered, "Something's under the water." Lily nodded slowly. "Not under," she said. She raised her trembling hand and pointed. "At the bottom." The dock vibrated, just slightly, as though something massive brushed against it from below. Jordan stepped back. Emma froze. Lily stared, wide-eyed, unable to look away. And then, a hand, thin, impossibly pale, pressed flat against the underside of the water's surface, like the lake had skin instead of waves. The hand pushed upward. The water bulged, and the humming began again, this time just inches from their feet. Jordan screamed. Emma pulled him back. Lily stood transfixed. "It's calling us." Then the hand rose higher. A face formed beneath the water, drowned but watching, eyes open, mouth moving, humming. A teacher's shout suddenly cut through the night. "Kids, get away from the dock!" The face vanished instantly. The lake went still. The humming stopped. The three friends stumbled back toward the campsite, shaking, breathless, terrified. But as Emma looked behind her one last time, she saw wet footprints leading away from the lake, heading straight into the forest. And they were fresh. The teachers didn't believe a word they said until morning, because when dawn lit the forest, something terrible waited on the shore. The dock, the forbidden one, was gone. Not broken, not collapsed, gone.
Every plank, every nail, every trace of it disappeared, but something else replaced it. On the muddy ground where the dock once stood, a message had been carved. "Bring them back." The teachers panicked. Students cried. The campsite was packed up within minutes. Emma, Jordan, and Lily stuck close together. They knew someone, or something, wanted them. As they hurried through the woods, the humming drifted between the trees, weaving through the branches like cold fingers. Jordan said, "It wants one of us, doesn't it?" Lily whispered, "Maybe more than one." Emma didn't answer. She couldn't, because she suddenly noticed something horrifying. The wet footprints they'd seen last night were now beside them, following them, matching their speed, growing closer. When they finally reached the school buses, students rushed inside. Teachers shouted instructions. Everyone was scrambling, everyone except Emma, Jordan, and Lily, because the footprints stopped directly behind them, right at their heels, as if waiting. Emma slowly turned around, and that was the last thing she remembered before everything went dark. Hours later, she awakened inside the bus, the engine humming, rain tapping the windows. Students were asleep. Teachers were quiet. The forest was disappearing in the distance, but something felt wrong, very wrong. Jordan and Lily were gone. Emma ran down the aisle, checking every seat. Nothing. No backpacks, no shoes, no voices, no sign they ever boarded. And on the fogged rear window of the bus, someone had drawn a wet handprint. Under it, a single message smeared into the condensation. 1 returned, 2 remain. Emma froze. Her breath stopped. Her heart felt like it dropped straight out of her chest. And then, from under the back row of seats, she heard the humming again. Soft, slow, waiting. She took 1 step forward. And this is where you finish the story. Every graduating class at Brookside High took one final overnight camping trip before senior year ended. It was supposed to be a celebration, one last memory before adulthood. For Aiden, Maya, Cole, and Harper, it became something else entirely. Their campsite was deep in an old forest where the school claimed to have reserved land. But the trees looked wrong, tall, narrow, twisting upward like giant ribs. There were no trails, no animals, not even wind. The silence was heavy, like the forest was listening. The group set up their tent near a cluster of leaning trees that formed a crude arch. The arch looked carved, almost shaped, but the teachers insisted it was natural. Right at sunset, the seniors gathered around the fire. The teachers told everyone to stay within the circle of lanterns. If the lanterns go out, the lead teacher said, stay inside your tents. Do not wander in the dark. No one understood why she sounded scared. Around midnight, Harper shook Aiden awake. "Do you hear that?" Aiden listened. At first, nothing. Then, a faint scratching, like nails dragging across bark. But it wasn't coming from a tree. It was coming from inside the campsite, moving around the tents. Slowly, patiently, Cole unzipped the tent a crack to look. His face went pale. "What did you see?" Aiden whispered. Cole swallowed hard. "The lanterns are flickering." One by one, the lantern lights dimmed, like invisible hands were closing around them. Maya grabbed Aiden's arm. "I think something's out there." They huddled together as the last lantern sputtered. When it went out completely, the darkness swallowed everything. Then a sound rose from the trees. Not footsteps, not breathing, whistling. A slow, warped tune, rising and falling like someone was learning to whistle for the first time. But it came from everywhere at once, echoing through the branches above them. Maya's voice trembled. "That's not human." The whistling stopped suddenly, and then a voice whispered from the forest edge, "Count with me." Cole cursed under his breath. Aiden held his breath. Harper began crying quietly. The counting began slow. 1, 2, 3. It echoed around them, bouncing off the trees, getting closer with each number. 4, 5. Aiden peeked out again and froze. Shapes moved between the trees, tall, crooked silhouettes, their limbs bending in impossible angles, their heads tilting, listening to the counting voice. 6, 7. They stepped closer to the tents. 8, Harper whispered. "Why is it counting?" Aiden forced himself to speak. My grandma used to tell a story about creatures that count the people they're going to take." Cole stared at him. "You're kidding. I wish I was." 9. The voice was right outside now. Then they saw it. A face leaned into the tent crack, a face made of bark and shadows, with hollow, searching eye sockets. It whispered, 10. Perfect. The creature lunged toward the tent. Aiden's entire world went white. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on the forest floor. Morning sunlight was bleeding through the trees, but the campsite was destroyed. Lanterns crushed, tents shredded, footprints everywhere, the wrong kind. Long, clawed, and too many toes. Aiden shouted for his friends. Harper stumbled out from behind a tree, shaking and confused. Maya crawled out from under a torn tent, her voice hoarse. Cole was nowhere. The teacher searched all morning, calling his name, but the forest felt deeper, darker, endless. No phone signal, no path, no help. Finally, a teacher found something hanging from a branch. Cole's necklace, torn, wet, and covered in strange symbols carved into the metal. Aiden's stomach dropped. Maya whispered, "That voice counted to 10, but there were only 9 students in our group." Harper choked out, "So it took Cole for the 10th? Aiden didn't answer, because on the ground beneath the tree, written in dirt with long finger marks, was a message: "Bring back the missing one, or we count again." The teachers panicked and ordered everyone to pack up immediately. Students sprinted to the buses, terrified, but the forest wasn't done with them. As Aiden stepped onto the bus, he heard the whistling, faint, behind the trees, and then, horribly clear, 1.
The buses tore out of the forest, gravel spitting under the wheels. Teachers refused to look out the windows. Students cried silently. No one could find Cole. Aiden sat in the back row with Maya and Harper. All 3 were pale, shaking, unable to breathe normally. Harper whispered, "It followed us, didn't it?" Aiden didn't know, but he knew one thing. The counting hadn't stopped. 2. It came from somewhere behind the bus. Maya looked out the window and froze. "Aiden, look!" Between the trees, something tall and crooked sprinted alongside the bus, matching its speed, weaving between trunks without slowing. Its bark skin cracked open with each step, its hollow eyes fixed on them, counting. 3. Aiden shouted for the driver to go faster, but the driver couldn't hear him. Rain suddenly poured down, hard. The bus skidded slightly. The forest blurred past them in streaks of black and green. 4. Harper grabbed Maya's hand. Maya grabbed Aiden's. They felt the creature's gaze, like a cold hand pressing on their ribs. Then the bus passed a fallen tree, and the creature disappeared. Silence. Finally, they reached the main road. Civilization, lights, people. Everyone exhaled. Until Aiden noticed something on the back window, a handprint made of dirt, and underneath it, a number smeared into the glass. 5. Aiden whispered, "It's still counting." As students filed off, Aiden stayed behind to search the bus. He needed answers. He needed to know if Cole was alive. He needed to know if the creature came on board. He checked under seats, in the storage compartment, every corner. Nothing. But then, at the very back, where the emergency exit was, he saw something. Cole's backpack, open, dripping with lake water, and something inside it moved, slowly. Aiden crouched, reached out trembling fingers, opened the zipper fully. Inside was something wrapped in a soaked piece of forest bark, something breathing, and then a voice whispered directly behind him, 6. Aiden spun around, and the screen goes black. Viewers must finish the story to earn their certificate. Your viewers now decide, what was inside Cole's backpack? Did Cole survive, or become something else? Does the creature enter the real world outside the woods? Why is it counting? What happens at 10? Does Aiden save his friends? Or does someone else become the next number? Or does the forest call them back? Let the viewers write their own ending to earn their certificate, if they're brave enough. This happened to 4 college friends. Eli, the one who always filmed everything. Serena, the smart one who didn't believe in ghosts. Marcus, fearless until fear stared back. And Nora, quiet, but the kind of person the woods notice first. Their environmental studies professor took them on a weekend camping trip to examine old forest ecosystems, something the school did every few years. But this time, the forest felt wrong. The air was colder than it should have been. The birds didn't sing, and the trees leaned inward, like they were trying to listen. The campsite was set beside what looked like the remains of an old fire tower. Nothing left but a collapsed ladder and 4 rotting support beams, reaching into the sky like broken fingers. The professor warned everyone, do not go near the tower. This area has history. Of course, that only made the group more curious. That night, Eli set up his camera to record the stars, but when he checked the footage, the stars kept disappearing from the frame, like something massive kept passing overhead, even though the sky was clear. Serena said the camera was glitching. Marcus joked it was forest Wi-Fi ghosts. Nora didn't say a word. She just kept staring into the tree line. As the fire burned low, the professor told them about the tower. Decades ago, a watchman worked there alone. He logged every tiny sound in the forest, birds, branch snaps, wind. But toward the end of his life, his journal entries changed. Every night, at exactly the same time, he wrote the same sentence. It's walking the perimeter again. When they found him, the professor said, his cabin door was open, his body was missing, and around the cabin were footprints, but not human ones. Long steps, huge strides, as if something tall had been circling for years. Eli laughed it off, but the professor didn't. Some say the watchman never left, he said quietly. Some say he's still walking the perimeter, a little wider every year. Everyone went silent. Even the fire seemed to dim. Later that night, when the students crawled into their tents, the wind picked up, fast and sharp. It rattled their tents like giant hands, shaking them awake. Then the footsteps started, slow, rhythmic, heavy, not animal, not human. Something was walking in a massive circle around the campsite, just beyond the reach of the firelight. Marcus whispered, "Is that the professor?" No one answered, because the professor was asleep in his own tent, snoring. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Serena peeked through the zipper and gasped, covering her mouth. Eli leaned in beside her and froze. A shape walked at the edge of the clearing, tall, impossibly tall, thin legs stepping in deliberate, patient strides. It wasn't glancing toward the campsite. It was scanning,
patrolling like it was following an old path, a path it had walked for decades. Then it stopped, its head turned, slow, cracking, like old wood bending. It looked directly at their tent, and the fire, as if terrified, blew out in an instant. Everything went black. Footsteps approached. One step, another, another. The creature stopped right outside the tent wall. Eli could hear its breathing, shallow, like wind through dead leaves. Nora whispered the last thing any of them wanted to hear. "It's counting us." Then, a deep voice, one that didn't sound like it came from lungs, but from the earth itself, whispered through the fabric. 4. Still 4. Serena screamed. Eli grabbed her. Marcus kicked open the tent. They all ran. Branches sliced their arms as they sprinted through the woods. They didn't know where the professor was. They didn't know where the path was. They didn't even know if the thing was still behind them. All they knew was the forest was moving, trees leaning, wind pushing, needles falling, as if guiding them somewhere. Suddenly, Nora tripped and fell hard. Eli spun back to help her up, just in time to see the thing's shadow spill across her like a cloak. Nora screamed. The ground shook, and the forest went silent, dead silent. When Eli reached the spot, Nora was gone. Not dragged, not pulled, no footprints, just missing. Marcus choked out, Did it take her?" Serena whispered, trembling. "He said 4, and now there's 3. Eli's voice cracked. "What does it do when it reaches 0? A low, distant whisper drifted through the trees. 3, and the night swallowed them again.
Eli, Serena, and Marcus ran until their legs burned. They didn't stop until they stumbled into the clearing with the collapsed fire tower. Moonlight washed over the rotten beams. The professor was nowhere in sight. Serena collapsed, shaking. Marcus paced. Eli scanned the tree line for movement, but the forest seemed to be holding its breath. Then Eli noticed something strange. There were carvings on the tower beams. Fresh carvings, scratched in long strokes, deep and desperate. Numbers, hundreds of them, increasing, decreasing, repeating, and then he saw it. A fresh number carved right at eye level. 3, Marcus whispered. "It marked us." Eli swallowed hard. "It marked everyone who went missing before us." Serena's voice trembled. "So when it reaches 0, what happens?" Before Eli could answer, they heard a distant scream. Nora's voice. It echoed through the trees, then cut off abruptly. Marcus rushed toward the sound, but Eli dragged him back. "That's not Nora," he whispered. "It's mimicking her." The chilling part? The voice imitated Nora perfectly. Every breath, every tremble. Then, 2, the creature's voice echoed behind them. Eli spun around. Serena gasped. Marcus backed up until he hit the tower beam. The creature stepped into the clearing. Moonlight finally revealed it fully. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a monster. It was tall, twice the height of a man, with joints that bent the wrong way, and bark-like skin stretched over a skeletal frame. Its head was shaped like a broken lantern, empty inside except for a faint, flickering light swinging where its eyes should be. The light pulsed as it spoke. 2 remain, Marcus whispered. "No, we're 3. The lantern head flickered brighter. Its voice lowered. 1 is already claimed. Eli felt cold all over. "Nora." Serena grabbed Eli's hand. "We have to make a choice. We either run, or we finish what it started." Marcus shouted, "What does that even mean?" The creature leaned forward, its glowing head inches from them. "Finish the count." And then, the tower collapsed behind them, exploding into dust. The creature lunged. Moonlight shattered across the clearing, and the screen cuts to black. If you enjoyed this story and want more chilling cinematic ghost tales just like this one, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Here, every story is crafted with detail, suspense, and true storyteller energy. Join the community and step deeper into the shadows with me.